It is a delight to have you. And let's talk first about Chairman of the Freedom Caucus, probably the single most influential caucus within House Republicans. So what is the primary thing you hope the Freedom Caucus can help steer the House to do?
Well, I think that we need to continually remind people of the conservative conscience that they all have. They all have it, but they sometimes forget it. So that's one of the big things we can do, and we can make sure in particular that as we're working with the Freedom Caucus and we're moving this forward, that we can get our leaders, make sure that they remember that conservative conscience too. I mean, that's the heart of the American people. I still believe we're a right-center people. We're conservative at heart, regardless of the party. But we can help guide that, and that's what I hope we continue to do.
I am convinced that a lot of the inquiries into the scandals at the Department of Justice and FBI would never have gotten where they are had it not been for members of the Freedom Caucus being relentless on behalf of the American people, and I want to emphasize on behalf of the American people. Now, Congressman, you're on the House Judiciary Committee. Right now, the chairman of that committee, Jerry Nadler, the Democrat from New York, is just determined to pursue an impeachment against the president, and I scratch my head and I'm wondering, impeachment for what? Fill us in.
There's nothing there to impeach this president on, and what this is getting back to their disappointment, their aggravation that Hillary Clinton didn't win, and they just can't believe that Donald Trump is our president. They can't get over it, and the rest of the nation is saying move on, and what this administration has done is fantastic. And I think there's so much headroom for us to do even more, but they're really throwing speed sticks down because they want to get him for personal reasons as much as political reasons.
But a question, is Nadler going to bring Andrew McCabe, the former FBI Associate Director, is he going to bring him in for an interview? Are we going to see James Comey come in for an interview? Is this only to go after the people who are with President Trump, or is there going to be a legitimate attempt to find out what in the world happened during the 2016 election?
They don't care really what happened in the 2016 election, but for the parts that they want to try and impute something on President Trump or his colleagues, his campaign, they just don't want to get at the real truth. And that's why we continue with this kind of fantasy land approach. I mean, look, if I can just take 1 second to tell you, they're not even talking obstruction of justice anymore. The resolution that they presented to us as a committee this week didn't use the word obstruction, it used the word thwart. And the word thwart has nothing to do with, there's no legal definition of thwart like there is with obstruction. So now he's thwarting something. And it just shows how unfocused they are on the reality because they're consumed with this vitriolic and chaotic attempt to impeach this president.
You live on the border, being an Arizona congressman. Probably there's no one among the Republican caucus who has a better handle on what open borders would mean to America. This president has tried to say we cannot have open borders, but every single Democrat on the stage basically have embraced that view. Why is that dangerous to America, and why should the rest of the country care, regardless of whether they're Democrats or Republicans?
The reality is, as long as we have this policy being evinced by the Democrats, what you're going to get is the incentives to come across. What did we see just a few months ago because of all the incentives that the Democrats have? You saw an overrunning, and the reason I mention that is because when you talk about what is the impact, when you look at 145,000 apprehensions in a single month, and you look at the criminality of people that came across, I'm not saying all these people were criminals, but the fact of the matter is there are some criminals amongst them. We see what happened in Baltimore, where you had 7 illegal aliens attack individuals over the last few weeks. This is what can happen. It changes the very nature and tenor of this country, and it also impacts the economy, so it impacts jobs. So no less a person than she's no conservative than Barbara Jordan said, look, this impacts the minority's ability to get jobs. So it has a tremendous societal and economic impact on this country. And you know what, if we're a nation of rule of law, this is the undermining of the very notion of the rule of law, which made the United States different than any other country, because we've said everybody's subject to the rule of law, but apparently if you're an illegal alien, you are not subject to the rule of law.
Congressman, I know we're out of time, but I got to ask one last question. Supreme Court, big decision this week upholding President Trump's asylum restrictions. Yeah. Is that a big deal for border protection?
Absolutely, that's a big deal. That program in and of itself is going to keep literally tens of thousands of people, disincentivize them from coming across. That's a huge win for the Trump administration and a huge win for the United States of America.
Well, Congressman Andy Biggs has been with us, and if you want to see a balanced budget, a safe border, as well as fair and legal immigration, which I think we're all for that, please follow Congressman Biggs. Now, these are just a few of the important issues that he's fighting for us, for all of us in Washington, and you can learn more on his website, biggs.house.gov. Also, follow him on Twitter at Rep. Andy Biggs AZ for Arizona.